From billionaire to inmate number, Diddy's empire didn't just stumble, it collapsed in public view. Sean Diddy Combs isn't just facing headlines, he's facing years. In July, a jury acquitted him of racketeering and sex trafficking, but convicted him on 2 Mann Act counts for transportation for prostitution. Serious federal felonies that carry real time. He was denied bail even after extraordinary offers, and remains in custody while the clock ticks toward sentencing on October 3, 2025. Prosecutors are pushing for roughly 4 to 5 years, while the defense argues he's already paid enough. Around him, business deals have vaporized, honors have been revoked, and partners have fled. The legal fight continues in motions and new lawsuits, but the broader battle is reputational. Documentaries, late-night monologues, and viral clips have cemented an image that's hard to unwind. This is the story of a controlled burn that became a wildfire, and why even a partial courtroom win wasn't enough to stop the fallout. A Los Angeles jury delivered a split outcome. Not guilty on racketeering and sex trafficking, guilty on 2 counts under the Mann Act tied to transportation for prostitution. The verdict followed a multi-week trial that drew heavy media attention and a detailed case record. The Mann Act convictions are felonies. Each count can carry up to a decade in prison under statute, though actual sentencing depends on guidelines and judicial discretion. After the verdict, the court denied bail, citing the seriousness of the conduct and risk factors noted by prosecutors. He remains incarcerated pending sentencing. The date is set, October 3, 2025. Prosecutors have signaled a guidelines range around 51 to 63 months. The defense has indicated it will argue for time served and mitigating factors. Post-verdict, Diddy's legal team filed motions seeking acquittal or a new trial. Prosecutors urged the court to reject them, asserting the jury's findings were supported by evidence. With the motions teed up and sentencing briefs underway, the near-term path is procedural but consequential. The outcome will determine whether he leaves custody this year or not. The core facts are straightforward: a partial win on the most explosive allegations, a clear loss on 2 federal counts, continued detention, and a high-stakes sentencing now weeks away. The case that ended in July's mixed verdict started with federal inquiries and high-profile searches that moved quickly into an indictment and trial docket. In court, the prosecution presented travel records, communications, and witness testimony to argue an organized pattern of procuring and transporting sex workers across state lines. The defense pushed back, challenging credibility and scope, and argued the most sweeping charges overreached. As proceedings stretched over several weeks, coverage became wall-to-wall. Major outlets chronicled the length of trial, the number of witnesses, and the spectacle surrounding it, each day adding texture to the public narrative. When the jury returned its decision, the immediate legal takeaway was clear. The government didn't meet its burden on racketeering and sex trafficking, but it did on 2 Mann Act counts. That split result reframed the stakes. It also set in motion the current posture: post-trial motions, detention rulings, and a firm sentencing date. The court's detention order after verdict, no bail, underscored judicial concern and raised the possibility that any sentence could fold into time already served, depending on length. Media analyses that followed focused on what a post-Me Too trial looks like when coercion is difficult to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, and how partial convictions can still carry a heavy cultural and professional cost. Facts first, then fallout. That sequence defines where this story stands now. After the verdict, consequences moved beyond the courthouse. Corporate partners reassessed. Prior collaborations and development deals were paused or canceled. Honors and symbolic recognitions tied to brand value were rescinded. Coverage from mainstream wires cataloged the state of his ventures post-conviction, noting exits, suspensions, and the pullback of distribution in places where his name once opened doors. Public perception tracked with these moves. The late-night circuit turned dramatic court testimony into punchlines, which matters because those moments shape mass memory more than filings do. For a legacy built on visibility and cultural capital, the visible retreat of institutions and the casual framing of the scandal in jokes and memes signaled a reputational slide that a legal appeal alone can't arrest. None of this determines guilt or innocence beyond the counts the jury decided. It does, however, define the market reality facing any comeback attempt. When platforms, retailers, and awarding bodies distance themselves, pathways narrow. That's the ledger today. 2 felony convictions awaiting sentence, a shrinking universe of brand allies, and a news cycle that treats each development as the next chapter in a public unmaking. The data points are not rumors, they're decisions by organizations that track risk. Together, they show the scale of collateral damage that follows even a partial courtroom loss. While the criminal case advances toward sentencing, the defense is fighting on parallel fronts. First, post-trial motions ask for acquittal or a new trial. Prosecutors have urged the judge to reject both, arguing the jury's verdict is well supported. Second, in civil court, Diddy filed a $100 million defamation lawsuit against NBC Universal and producers over the Peacock documentary Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy, alleging it fabricated or exaggerated claims that caused severe reputational harm. That suit is both legal maneuver and messaging. It signals he will not concede the narrative space to documentaries and detractors. Third, sources close to defense strategy preview a rehabilitation frame at sentencing, positioning him for anti-domestic violence advocacy and counseling work to argue for leniency. Finally, pardon chatter surfaced in reporting. People in his orbit were said to have explored the idea. His attorney publicly denied that his legal team made such a request, a distinction that matters in court and in public opinion. Together, these moves sketch a strategy: keep legal avenues open, contest media portrayals, and propose a path to restitution that could soften the judge's view. None of this erases the convictions, but in high-profile cases, the post-verdict phase often doubles as a campaign to influence sentencing, preserve options on appeal, and rebuild enough credibility to function in public. That's the current play. Outside the docket, reputation is its own court. PR analysts looking at Diddy's position describe a near-total collapse of brand equity. One expert framed it as being stuck in society's septic tank, a shorthand for reputational freefall with very few exits. In parallel, cultural coverage argues this saga is a post-Me Too stress test, what accountability looks like when the loudest charges don't result in convictions, yet testimony and reporting reshape how a star is seen. Documentaries, podcasts, and explainers compound that perception, building a narrative stack that's hard to dislodge. The result is a two-front battle: sentencing in court and sentencing in culture. Even if the legal outcome lands below the maximum, the symbolic sentence, lost partnerships, rescinded honors, public jokes that calcify into identity can run longer than any term imposed by a judge. That's why the defense's redemption pitch is as much about optics as mercy. It hopes to give the public a frame other than scandal to attach to his name. Whether that frame sticks is uncertain. Audiences remember stories more than filings, and the story right now is a fall from power told in viral clips and punchlines. Rebuilding against that is possible, but it requires time, humility, and uncontested good works. None of those are guaranteed. The legal math is simple: 2 felony convictions, no bail, sentencing on October 3rd, motions pending, a 9-figure lawsuit launched, a redemption plan floated. The cultural math is harsher. Brands retreat faster than courts deliberate, and memory is made from moments that trend, not footnotes that clarify. If there is a comeback, it won't be engineered by press releases or a single good headline. It will be earned in slow, visible work that outlives the clips people share today. Until then, the story is not whether he was acquitted of the biggest charges, but whether the charges that did stick, and everything that followed, have already written the ending. We're weeks from the judge's decision. The culture has rendered one of its own. The sentence it hands down may be the harder one to overturn.